Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. You're listening to PHLY Flyers. That's right, PHLY. My name is Bill Matz, and I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Happy Philadelphia Friday the 13th to all of you out there, and we have quite a lucky show for everyone because it is our fourth BSH crossover. That's right. We have the whole gang back together for this excellent Friday show. Flyers undefeated, obviously the biggest story in Philadelphia sports right now. So let's just get right into it and lead things off with fresh back from Columbus, Philly's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor.
Hey, everybody. Good to be back. Got back earlier this afternoon, took a little nap, and now I'm back to do a show. I will say that, Steph, I concur. Columbus isn't as bad as some people make it out to be.
Thank you.
It's pretty boring, but it's nice boring.
It's nice. It's just like, that's what I think of when I think of the flyover states. Like, it's just nice. The people there are nice. It's fine. It's nice.
Yeah. We found a nice sports bar to watch. I guess it was Game 3 of the Phillies Brave series. Got to see Bryce Harper hit his bomb. That was great. Well, actually, both of his bombs, but the first one was the one that I got there.
That was a legitimate bomb.
I got there maybe about 15 minutes before he hit that one.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
It was the perfect time. But it's a nice little sports bar, nice little city. So I got no complaints about Columbus. It was fine.
Making her residence in the cryingest sports town in America, Stephlicious D, Steph Driver. How's everyone doing down there today, Steph? Are the roads flooded with tears?
It is. It's raining really hard. So yes, it is. The entire city of Atlanta is in tears today. So obviously I'm in Atlanta. That's why I'm not in studio, and PHLY has been great in working with me while I'm down here. I've never been living in enemy territory. The only enemy territory I've ever lived in is Philadelphia. And we were the enemy to everyone else, right? I'm not used to this. We are going to put up a 12-foot statue, or at least a cutout of Bryce Harper for Halloween on our front lawn. There's nothing else that's scary to the people of Atlanta right now. So I'm living, this is great for me.
Last but certainly not least, my pregame partner and the fly by herself, it's Kelly Hinkle.
I just want you guys to know that I've been not sold on either Columbus or Atlanta as places to visit anytime soon.
I mean,
don't work for the tourism board, either of you.
Kelly, neither of them are in Canada, so obviously you wouldn't be sold on them. If it was a small nothing city in Canada, you would be easily sold.
No boats in Columbus, I don't think.
No boats.
No water.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's Ohio. At the end of the day, it's Ohio. All right, so let's get right into it. I guess first I should address post-game last night. There were some technical difficulties. If you're looking for that podcast, I don't think it exists because of, listen, it was, first of all, I wouldn't say my attention was fully on the Flyers game last night. We're doing a live stream watch party out there. Both TVs on mute. I don't know how Ryan Lambert does it watching hockey games on mute, but I certainly can't pay attention if the announcers aren't screaming at me. And I'm in here as Castellanos is hitting his second home run. Rojas is making his play. So I think it's just best for everyone if that post game, if you caught it live, good for you. If not, you missed out on
should have been there.
Quite a party atmosphere. But from now on, the post game should and will live as podcasts after the live experience. It was just a lot going on last night, and let's be honest, it was not the priority. It wasn't mine, so I can't imagine it was anyone
It was
else.
my priority. Yeah. I was covering the game.
Charlie was there
at the arena.
Charlie, capital J journalist, does his job. Me, not as much, quite honestly. I do also have to point out our new set piece, this pumpkin, a gift from Mama Matt's. She hooked us up, got it at a farmer's market this weekend,
Beautiful.
and I wanted to bring it in for Friday the 13th. Nice little decorative pumpkin for us.
Thank you, Mama Matt's.
As we move towards this Halloween season. And now it is time to talk about Game 1. The Flyers are 1-0, and I'm putting them in the playoffs, guys. I don't know about anyone else.
I mean, isn't that what Game 1's for, though?
Yeah.
Game 1 is for, if they win, it means they're going to be really good and we should get excited. And if they lose, it means they're going to be the worst team in the league. That's game one.
That's just the way
Those
she
are
goes.
facts.
Yeah. So a few observations from last night. I think we all kind of took away the same thing because I was talking about the same thing Charlie wrote about in his game story. And it's, if this team, as we've said, surprises us and is closer to mediocre than horrible, it's going to be on the backs of their 4 top guys. And like it or not, their 4 top guys are Sanheim, Konechny, Couturier, and Hart. I want to start with Sean Couturier last night because finally back. Hasn't played since December of 2021, and he made his presence felt almost immediately. Picks up the primary assist on Farabee's goal to open the scoring last night and looked a lot closer to 1C Couturier than I think I was expecting.
Yeah, it was really good to see because I think I said it like 15 times on the show. I was expecting that he would have to ease in and it would maybe take a little while for us to see regular Sean Couturier, but he looked pretty dang close to regular Sean Couturier last night.
I think and this is just purely a selfish perspective because I have to deal with people on social media all the time. I am the most happy that now I no longer have to hear every time I tweet about Sean Couturier, have to hear people say, he's never going to play again. You're trying to tell me he's healthy. I haven't seen him yet. Like, well, now he's played. And maybe you didn't watch because you were watching the Phillies game, but guess what?
Understandable.
Guess what? You could have taped it. There is video evidence that Sean Couturier played in a regular season game. He will play another hockey game because he has played another hockey game.
Because of the overlap with the Phillies, this could very much be he's still Ryan Ellis. No one's actually seen it yet. God. Like, this is tree falls in the woods. No one's there to see it. Like, did anyone actually see it happen? No, I did watch enough of the game last night to know
to confirm
that Sean Couturier was out there and looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think with Couturier, and he wasn't perfect. One thing that is interesting to me is that Tortorella continues to kind of hold it over that I haven't seen the real Sean Couturier yet. I kind of wonder if that's going to become a thing where he's like, well, Cam's closer to him, his usual self than Sean is, but Sean did okay. But while Couturier maybe with the puck wasn't his 100% self, what I loved about seeing him back was that his line dominated. And that's Sean Couturier. There are so many games during a normal season where, maybe Sean Couturier isn't making tons of plays with the puck because he's not the most skilled guy with the puck. Not that he doesn't have skill with the puck, but he's not a superstar level talent in terms of making these fantastic plays. But he just does the little things with regards to winning battles, with his spacing, with helping out his team break out of the defensive zone. And then after the second period's done, you think to yourself, man, that Couturier line spent basically every single one of their shifts in the offensive zone. That's weird. And then when you watch it happen for 7-8 straight years, you're like, it's actually not weird. It's because Sean Couturier is a really, really good center. And that's exactly what we saw last night in that his line just was in the offensive zone all the time. And that's not a fluke. That's Sean Couturier.
So Bill and I talked on the pregame about who's going to be John Tortorella's new pet. Like Kevin Hayes was.
But opposite.
The one that you poke.
His whipping boy or the guy he holds to the high standard.
Is it going to be Sean Couturier?
Is he going to poke Sean Couturier? I think Sean Couturier, if he is that guy, he will respond.
He can take it.
He'll respond better than Kevin Hayes responded, I believe.
Yeah, I liked what I saw out of him. And I saw in your article, I think you had the expected goals when he was on the ice, in the 75 range.
Just a usual Sean Couturier game.
Someone said in the chat last night it was 73. So about 3/4 of the expected goals were when Sean Couturier was on the ice were for the Flyers. And for a team that doesn't have that high-end talent, that is a pretty damn good. That's a pretty damn good ratio for anybody. I'm happy to see him back. I'm happy to see Bobby Brink on that line. I was very happy to see Joel Farabee get that first goal. Really start out I didn't want it to be like last season where, oh man, this isn't good. He does not look like Joel Farabee. And now, okay, you got the first one. That first one just seems so big. Guys who didn't score last night, their seasons aren't over. 81 more. Owen Tippett can still score 40. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just all right, these guys are on the pace that we need to see them on. And our wins and losses the biggest thing in the world?
Yes.
No. Oh. In fact, losses are good. But certain dudes are going to be a part of the next good Flyers team, whether you like them or not. Sean Couturier's here. 8-year contract. He got 7 more. No move clause for the full thing. He's going to be a part of this thing. They badly need him to be good. And if he drags them to a few more wins than we'd maybe like in terms of a draft pick, that also means, oh, well, whether it's 1C, 2C, whatever it is down the line, we have a box checked. It's important. So where are you, Steph, in terms of like rebuild versus the guys we have looking good? How are you balancing that?
I was trying not to get too excited last night because it was just Columbus that they were playing. Columbus isn't expected to be good this season
Columbus
either.
was horrible last season.
Really bad. So I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, these are 2 bad teams, but one is just a little bit worse than the other. And then all the empty net goals started coming in. And that's when I was like, okay, well, the guys that need to be scoring are scoring. So maybe this season is going to be good because these are the guys, Cam Atkinson, Sean Couturier, Joel Farabee, Travis Konecny, we need them to be scoring. And they were all on the score sheet last night.
So here's the thing. The Flyers spent a lot of time losing games to shitty teams. So seeing them beat the teams they should beat, that's good. You can find something in there.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to a lot of shitty teams because they were indeed a shitty team.
They were, in fact, shitty.
Someone has to win those games. It was often not them.
It was not
the Flyers.
So in this particular battle of 2, to be very generous, mid-hockey teams, the Flyers came out on top. That's a positive.
Yeah. I mean, the point I made in my post-game column yesterday was that the whole reason why we all feel, I think rightfully, that the Flyers need to rebuild, that they needed to rebuild, is that especially after they decided that they were going to move on from Claude Giroux, they were going to end the Claude Giroux era. And then once Sean Couturier had his double back surgeries and it was unclear where he was going to end up in his career, the Flyers just had nobody remotely resembling high-end talent. Last year, Travis Konecny had a good season. He was point per game. But I don't think anybody's saying that last year's version of Travis Konecny was on par with the top-tier players in the NHL.
Nah.
And
he did have 30 goals in 60 games.
He had a good year. But I'm just saying, no one is going to put him on the level of David Pastrnak.
He's not a superstar.
Obviously not Connor McDavid. So you go into this game and you're like, okay, the Flyers, depth-wise, maybe the defense is weak. But on the whole, the forward core is pretty deep. Garnet Hathaway is a good fourth liner. You got 3 lines of pretty good forwards. This is a team that on paper has a lot of solid players. What they don't have are super high-end guys. And the thing with last night's game was that, yeah, they don't have super high-end guys, but the guys who are the top of the lineup last night kind of played like high-end guys. They played like guys who maybe aren't stars, but maybe are on that next tier down. And the point I made in the column was that, look, was it possible going into the season to envision Sean Couturier coming back and being Sean Couturier again? Travis Konecny maybe keeping his offensive gains, but also becoming a better two-way player. Travis Sanheim having a bounce-back year and looking like a top-pair defenseman. Carter Hart taking a leap into taking that next step. Was it possible to envision all those things happening? Yeah, but it seemed impossible to envision all of them happening at the same time. You could see 1 or maybe 2 happening. Well, last night, all 4 of them looked like their best-case scenario. Now, again, 1 game. But if all 4 of those guys have their best-case scenario seasons, suddenly this gets interesting from okay, is this team actually going to be as bad as we think they are? And again, 1 game against Columbus. But if all 4 of their top-of-the-lineup guys have top-end potential ceiling-type seasons, this team might not be that bad.
And if you think that's a possibility, maybe you want to get the Flyers. I believe they're 6-1 to make the playoffs. Maybe you want to play
6-1?
Yeah, plus 600, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to 6-1 seems very low.
Does that mean if I bet $1, I will win $600 when they make the playoffs?
You'll win 6.
I was close.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you bet 100, you'll win
there.
600.
Okay, got it.
But if you're looking to place that bet, you should do it. At DraftKings, the NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking up new customers with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets, and DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game day this October. This week, we've got San Francisco favored by under a TD in Cleveland. Miami is 2-score favorites home against Carolina. Philly favored by 7 in the Meadowlands. And the full slate of games plus props, teasers, and so much more. The action at DraftKings for Week 6 is nearly endless. Get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code PHLY. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code PHLY only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf Boot Hill Casino and Resort, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Yeah.
Whew.
Good to be back.
It's all right. I feel good about that one. I feel pretty good about that one. I have to move on to a guy who has always been my favorite player on this team.
Always.
The man I picked to win this Ashby Trophy.
You sure did.
Not out of spite, but out of pure love for Travis Sanheim.
Okay, that I might argue with. But
I really, really liked what I saw out of him offensively, playing the right side last night, some power play time. My favorite play, though, that he made was something so simple. Early in the game, there's an opportunity maybe for him to be a little soft and just try to poke the puck, but it's a puck battle, entry situation coming in on his side, coming across the blue line. And he just finished the guy off, took him into the board, said, nah, second guy in can take the puck. I am taking the body, and he plastered him right along the glass. And goddamn, that's what I want to see. You're so big. You're so big. And there's been a lot made out of how he's bulked up this offseason, put on some weight. He was using it last night, and that's what I want to see out of that man. Perhaps his ceiling when this team is good is second pair defensemen. You badly need those. You need a second pair. Travis Sanheim, I was happy with what I saw.
I think he's always been a second pair defenseman, but we've been waiting for him to use his.
But a good one now.
A big dude. He's a big dude. It was nice to see. He's always been my guy. I know Charlie likes him too.
Big Travis Sanheim fan, but no, I loved his game. I was surprised because I think there was a real question going into the season of who is going to replace the Pro V minutes. Obviously, they happen to be playing against Ivan Provorov in this game.
And we talked they don't need to. Play everyone 20. Who cares? That was not the case last night.
But the thing is that there's always going to be a guy who the coaches lean on more. And when I looked at the ice time charts at the end of the second period and I saw that Sanheim was around 19 minutes, it was like, oh, it's Sanheim. And I had already been noticing him over the course of the game, thinking like, he's having a really strong game. Then you look at the ice time charts and you realize the coaches noticed it
over
too.
26 minutes.
Yeah, he finishes over 26 minutes, and he earned those minutes. And, I went into the locker room after the game planning for Sanheim to be a big part of the article I wrote. So we didn't ask for Sanheim. Sanheim's a good quote, but we only got 3 people. We got Couturier, obviously. It was his first game back from the long layoff in a regular season game. And I asked Couturier what he thought of Sanheim. He had gotten 26 minutes in the game, and Couturier basically was like, he was a monster. And he said, look, he said something very interesting to me, and maybe there's something to this. I don't know. I guess we'll see over the course of the year. But Couturier basically said that, Sanheim for a long time has kind of been an Ivan Provorov shadow. And maybe this is an opportunity for him to step up and seize that number one role that he was never allowed to grow into because Ivan Provorov was always ahead of him on the depth chart. And maybe Sanheim will ultimately flop. But for one game, he looked like a number one defenseman in the NHL. And I think there are people who didn't even think he could do that for one game.
Do you think that 26 minutes is sustainable for him across the season? Because he's not used to playing.
Well, I think physically, yeah. I think he could do it from a fitness standpoint. Yeah. Now, whether he can do it and stay effective, that's a fair question. Yeah. Physically, I think he can.
Well, yeah.
Just the other guy, Konechny 2 goals last night. He appears to be picking up where he left off. Good. But Carter Hart stopped 31 of 33. While Columbus, not very good. They do have some pretty damn good high-end offensive talent. Yeah. And he just looked like best case scenario Carter Hart, steady.
Yeah. The Carter Hart, when you don't really notice him working hard, is like the best version of Carter Hart, where he's just like, stop this puck, stop this puck. Like he doesn't look like
he doesn't stand out. Ever. He's not Dominik Hasek.
Exactly. And that's what we got. And I think that's when he's on his game, that's what you notice most about him, that you don't notice him.
Well, he's so technically sound.
Yes.
And that's just his game, is that he makes tough saves look easy. Or he makes tough saves look medium. He makes medium saves look easy. And then after the game, you think to yourself, I don't remember them getting that many high quality chances. And it turns out they got a few. Yeah. It's just Hart did a good job of, number one, stopping the ones he saw. Number two, preventing chances that other goalies might have allowed to turn into big rebounds that then would have been high quality chances. He just swallows up or directs to the corner. And he was doing that. And, I don't know if we've forgotten, but don't forget that he started out last season really good too. That he got off to that incredible start, October, November. He was working on, I think, something like a 920 something save percentage. And that was with the Flyers defense playing terribly. He was the only thing keeping them in games the first month and a half of the year. Well, the Flyers defense now has a year. Granted, the blue line core doesn't look good on paper, but the team defense should be better given the fact that they're now a year in under Torts.
And they have Sean Couturier.
Yeah, and they have Sean Couturier, exactly. So Torts has gotten a year to try to kind of drill his system into them. And I think Hart will benefit from that. So if we see the version of Hart that started last season, if we see that version this year, maybe that version in a better defensive system, a better executed defensive system, maybe that's a 935 save percentage Carter Hart rather than a 925 save percentage Carter Hart, just because the team in front of him is more effective.
I guess the question now is, because we saw last year he didn't sustain it, and then you look at how little they used the backups, especially when it was Felix Sandstrom. Is it going to be maybe more of an even split? I've heard a lot of people talk about, okay, can Florida sustain what they did in the playoffs? And it's like, you can't let Bob start 60 games. He's a guy who you have to spell. Maybe Carter Hart is this good if he plays 45 instead of 55. Is that possible to do? We know they like Ersson more than they liked Sandstrom. Maybe we see him more than just on, the back end of back-to-backs like they did with Felix last year. Is that something maybe you think they'll be interested in?
I really think going 1A, 1B with these two guys is the best thing that they could possibly do for both of them, really.
Well, for Carter Hart, maybe for his contract coming up, maybe not. But
that's not a thing that the Flyers should
No,
be
it's not
about.
something they need to worry about.
And honestly, for him, he gets hurt all the time. So if he gets hurt in his contract year, that's not going to be great for him either. So maybe cutting back the games a little bit and getting Ersson some reps is a good thing for everybody.
I agree. All right, it's been 25 minutes and we haven't mentioned, I guess, what has been.
We haven't mentioned Matvei Michkov.
Drink. No, we haven't mentioned what has been basically the primary point of the show to. This is week 5 or 6 for us. Brink and Forster. Forster sits last night. Bobby Brink plays on the top line with Farabee and Couturier. He doesn't pick up any points. He does have 2 shots on goal. He's a +1 over 13 minutes of ice time. What did we think about Bobby last night? Stephanie?
I barely noticed him on the ice, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. If he's playing on the top line and I'm not necessarily noticing him, that means that he's not making any egregious errors.
I do need a guy with that sort of offensive upside to stand out, though, especially considering the amount of time Couturier spent in the offensive zone.
Yeah, I think I would say that he didn't look out of place. I wanted to see more
Didn't
from
look
him
special, though.
offensively, especially because, as you said, they spent so much time in the offensive zone. But speaking to what Steph said, the fact that they spent so much time in the offensive zone tells me that he wasn't doing anything to hinder them. It's not.
He wasn't turning it over nonstop.
It's not as if he was dragging that line down. That line looked very effective, and he touched the puck. He passed the puck. He was involved in the cycle. He wasn't getting overwhelmed physically, so that's a good sign. And he did make that one play in the third period where he drove the puck to the net and drew, I believe, a slashing penalty to put the Flyers on the power play. So he maybe worked himself into the game. I don't think he was bad. I don't think he was great. What I will say is going to be fascinating is if he stays in the lineup for tomorrow's game or if they begin a rotation with him and Forrester.
That's the big question at this point. Is this going to be 1-1-1-1, like back and forth? Do they figure out a way to get them both in? Or is this just, is it Tyson Forster's game Saturday and then the home opener is Brink? Like, how do you think they're going to work this thing? Because I get the rotation early on, especially, we have to respect the vets. They have to play in the home opener. They have to play in the blah, blah, blah. At a certain point, both have to be pretty regular in the lineup, and each playing 41 games does not appeal to me.
I think it makes sense for these first two games to be something like a second-tier tryout for the both of them. Like, they looked good in preseason, but those aren't real games. So now we got to look at Brink in a real game, and he was fine, but he didn't seem to grab the opportunity and run with it. So I think it makes sense to get Forster in and see if maybe he does, because if he does, then you have an answer. And if he doesn't, well, I don't know what we're doing then.
I hate to say this because I know they're not rooting for this outcome, because you never root for this outcome.
One to beat out the other.
No, not even that.
Oh.
I think there is an idea in their heads that if they drag this out a little bit, inevitably someone is going to get hurt.
Oh, boy.
And then not one of them, but like someone, because it's hockey and players get hurt. And then suddenly you have both of them in the lineup because a random player in the top 9 got hurt. And then the problem solves itself. I really think that's probably part of it. I think truthfully, the entire organization is shocked that they got through camp as uninjured as they did.
I mean, as the Flyers.
You spin the wheel enough times, Jesus. They have to get through some portion of something healthy. But, it's the Flyers.
This is a professional sports organization. A professional sports organization. That's just no, we don't feel like making a choice. Let's just play the both of them.
We'll see how it works out. I guess I want to get to the rest of the blue line now because we're still in the segment 1 portion of the outline, half an hour in.
We got to talk about the game.
No, the game is the most important thing. The game is the most important thing, especially with all the questions going into it.
And especially with the fact that quite a few of our viewers and listeners probably did not actually watch the game because there was a more important game on.
I'm learning quite a bit right now.
Can I tell you what stood out for me most during the game last night real quick? It's going to be an easy transition. I forgot what Mark Stahl looked like until last night, and I was getting vague, he looks like Jake Voracek and Jake Voracek.
There's a lot happening.
He's got the whole, it's the whole thing, and it made me miss Jake Voracek because he is a much better hockey player than Mark Stahl.
Yeah, Jake Voracek, apparently he went on another podcast.
Yeah.
The Chris Mara podcast, who I follow on Twitter.
I've done Chris's show.
And apparently Jake really ripped AV pretty good.
Well, not shocking.
Yeah.
No. I mean, Provorov basically said something similar. He, talking about his struggles last year, he basically lumped in the last 3 years. And it's so Alain Vigneault and John Tortorella and
Mike Yeo.
And
Mike Yeo.
Let us never forget Mike Yeo. But listen, I liked the beginning of the AV tenure. I think we were all pretty happy with what we were watching, but it's fairly clear the way things have unfolded in the years following. A lot of the players didn't love what was going on. And
the one thing,
how could you? We're rebuilding now. We've given up and started over.
The one thing that Jake said in that interview, and to be clear, and this isn't me shitting on Chris. I just haven't had a chance to listen to it. But I saw a lot of the things that were tweeted out about the interview, and the one thing that jumped out at me, just because of things that I heard, and it was never enough. Like I never had it from like a source that I would feel comfortable going out and reporting it, because it was all just speculation. Everybody was kind of trying to like put themselves in AV's mind. There was a general feeling around people that were around the team that season, the 2021 season, the season that started in January, and then especially the season after, the one that he didn't even make it through the end of December. There was a general feeling that AV's heart just really wasn't in coaching anymore. That part of it might have been because his parents were sick. Part of it might have been because of the COVID restrictions. He didn't feel like he could coach the way he ideally wanted to anymore. Whatever happened, that the Alain Vigneault, the martini drinking Alain Vigneault from before the pandemic never actually came back. And the guy who came back wasn't fully invested. And one thing that Voracek said in that interview apparently was that, like, I don't have to respect someone who quits on his team. And that was the first time that someone who was there, who very clearly is a primary source, articulated that not by speculating, but by straight up saying that, like, I think our coach quit on us. And it was interesting. It immediately put my eyebrows up, because I was like, I heard people speculating that, and to hear one of his players say that, okay, there might be legitimately something to it.
It was definitely a background conversation at the time, and not to stick up for AV, because who cares? He got fired and continued to get. He might still be collecting a paycheck.
Good for him.
I think he is for one. This is the last year.
This is the last one.
I think so. Yeah.
I like those restrictions and everything that unfolded in those couple of years, like, did take the fun out of the game for a lot of people. We've heard that in a lot of sports from a lot of different. Matt Niskanen was just like, you know what, this ain't fun no more. I'm going home. Yeah. I don't get, like, oh, this team, like, great run, made to the second round. You and Provorov, awesome pair. He's like, dude, this sucks. Like, it ain't fun no more. I've played long enough. I'm going home.
Yeah.
So, like,
I want my ring.
I can see that being the case for a lot of people. And when the team all of a sudden starts to nosedive, I can see AV being like, dude, you know how nice my house is? Like, you know how cool it is there? I don't live in a mansion. I'm not rich, and I love being home, especially getting paid to do nothing. I can see that being real appealing to him as well. But you mentioned Mark Stahl, Steph, so we will pick up there. Stahl is the dude from last night's game, whether it was in the comments and post-game or everything I've seen, read articles today, Twitter, etc., like, with the most wide range of opinions about what he looked like last night between he was Mark Stahl, he was fine, or, ooh, he's cooked. I have seen, and no one, I think, was like, oh, he was great, because it's Mark Stahl. Like,
and also,
what would he have to do to look great?
It's impossible for you to watch the game he played last night and think he looked great.
Yes, but just like the wide range, maybe it's people just wanting to see what they want to see. If you believe in a veteran in this lineup, you're like, oh, he was Stahl, he was fine. And if you're like, no, he's taking Andre's place, this is a waste, he stunk. What did we think about Mark Stahl, other than he looks like someone Kelly would be interested in?
All right.
Oh,
you love the beard.
That's a personal attack.
You love the scruffy. That's a known fact about you.
I don't know if it's an attack, but
it's not an attack. It's just something known that you like the scruffy looking dudes.
I do. I lost my train now. Oh, the one thing about Mark Stahl for me is that he made a crappy play that stuck out to me more than any other crappy play last night. I think you put it in your article. Did you put it in your article?
Well, to me, he had.
Or did you tweet it?
He had two plays that were really bad. The first, which was the really bad one, was on Columbus's goal. Not the Line goal, but the one that happened in the first period. Mm-hmm. He basically just like completely abandoned his side of the ice to go hit a guy in the middle of the rush.
The worst wristo that you could do. Yeah. He did a wristo, and that play, I was like, oh boy, is this what we're getting out of this guy? And like, he wasn't that bad the rest of the game, but that was just so like obviously terrible that it makes you think like, all right, like,
what are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
If I'm going to see someone make mistakes, it should be Emil Angelou. Like, he's here to not make mistakes.
Right.
If I'm going to watch someone screw up, I want to see the dude who might then also have an outlet past the length of the ice that springs someone for a breakaway.
Like, how quickly can we get him into the Chris Stewart professional best friend role? Because I feel like
tomorrow.
Let's go.
That's what you would do. Yeah. Well, Steph, I'm curious to hear your thoughts because obviously you were the one who brought up Marc Staal to begin with. What did you think of his game?
He's not good. He's not a good player, and he should not be on this team. Like, he's not good. I don't know why Danny Briere, like, this signing made me raise my eyebrow. Like, what are you doing? It's not a horrific signing, but what are you doing? Why are we here? Why are we here? I don't understand why he's on the ice. Like, he's just not good.
I think the thing with Staal that we talked about when the signing was made was that at the very least, because he's got that veteran presence, he was on the top 4 for Florida when they went to the cup final, that you should be able to basically like turn him into a draft pick at the deadline. And I still think they'll be able to do that.
But like a 6th next year.
Well, it was looking like a 5 maybe, but now I think we're dropping.
And I don't think, like, I'm of the opinion that I don't think he was good last night, to be clear. But I think his play on the goal was awful.
Yeah.
And he took a bad penalty in the third period when you're nursing a 1-goal lead, which is like the worst possible time to take a bad penalty. Beyond that, the in-between of those two plays, he was inoffensively average.
Yeah.
I didn't think but there were some
That's
people.
what he's here to be.
There were some people online who basically were like, how could you say he was average? He's been terrible. And like, I don't think he was good, but I don't think he did anything that made me jump out of my seat and say, man, this guy can't play. That said, to be inoffensively average for most of the game and then to make 2 really bad decisions, that's still bad.
That's coming up negative.
Cumulatively,
like,
that's bad.
You're a -2. Like, if you did nothing positive but had 2 major mistakes, you're a negative for the day.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think it was telling, Torts is not going to be a guy who's going to go out there and lambast a veteran that he spent a lot of the...
Not one of his boys.
Not one of his boys. At least one that he spent most of the training camp defending.
Yeah.
But when we asked Torts after the game, what did you think of the defense core? He very obviously and rightfully praised Sanheim, who had a very good game. He praised Zamula, who I thought we'll get to him in a few.
Shortly.
He really loves this guy. He went out of his way to praise Sean Walker, who he really, really likes.
Sean Walker's playing 82 games.
But
100%.
But
he's Van de Velde.
Yeah.
He did not mention Staal. And I think it was a little telling that he mentioned Walker because Walker was on Staal's pair. And I almost read that a little bit that like, well, Walker had a real good game because he kind of had to make up for the fact that his partner didn't have a great game. And look, they've been open. Torts has been open about the fact that Staal isn't going to play every game. And I thought that was going to be like, well, he'll play the first half of the year and then he'll settle into like a scratch rotation. If we get a few more games like this, maybe that scratch rotation starts at the end of October. Hopefully, maybe.
It should start Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned my guy, Big Z. Igor Zamula. Finally out there. It looks like he might be a steady part of this thing. I have been a fan of his since his like first preseason. I liked what I saw out of him because he was nowhere near ready to play in the NHL, nowhere near the body type yet. And he was like, I don't care. I'm going to try to throw hits out there. And like, I've always just appreciated that. Like TK starting that scrum with Gudbranson last night.
It was great.
It's like, you look like something he eats for breakfast. It's
so good.
And he didn't care. And like, that's what I liked about Z from the very beginning. And Zamula like starts the game out with that nice play to the poke check at the blue line to send the 2-0 for Farabee's goal, gets the secondary assist on that. I always like when you get a secondary assist on a play where there's back and forth, like there was more than one pass, but you get the secondary assist. I always appreciate that.
He deserved it. It was a great defensive play.
I appreciate that scoring decision.
Yeah.
But Zamula, just very happy to see him getting a steady shot. And it's game 1. Like, who knows what's going to happen next. But it looks like he's going to be a part of this thing. And listen, it could end up being Phil Myers. Like, starts out good, and then you see why he wasn't even drafted. But I like Z a lot.
This is the time when you got to figure out what you have in him. They didn't really figure it out last year. He made the team out of camp, played a little, kind of played himself out of the lineup, and then didn't have a great year in the AHL. And you're thinking, is he another bust? He had a really good camp, in my opinion. He earned his way into that lineup. Now, whether he would have been in the lineup had Risto been healthy. I'm not sure. But I think he played well enough in game 1 to justify playing in game 2.
Yes.
The only way I could justify sitting him out for game 2 is if they bring Andre in for him. They start this rotation. But if Risto comes in and they pull Zamula out and have Zamula and Andre both sit tomorrow, I'll be frustrated because I think Zamula played. He certainly didn't outplay Sanheim, but I would put him up there with pretty much every other defenseman in the top 6 or in the 6.
And when we're talking about the young guys who impressed us, and I'm going to throw Morgan Frost into that group.
He did not.
Zamula was the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
Morgan Frost, man.
No, I thought Z looked good, and I don't know, Bill. What about looking good?
Sometimes you just really gotta look good, and if that's your goal, especially on game day, you got to go with FOCO because FOCO has the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. Listen, it's football and tailgating season. We're getting out there. I think we might have a little tailgate news for everyone in the near future. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. But whatever you need for a tailgate, whether it's hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, anything you need for game day, FOCO has it. And don't forget, they got the overalls, baby. Get your overalls at FOCO. And they have so much more accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, anything you need. Maybe for Kelly's building a she shed on your boat. Maybe you could shop at FOCO, and if you're going to do it, because they always have the backs of Philly sports, you can use code PHLY for 10% off. Get the best gear around. Use the link in our description and use promo code PHLY for all non-presale items. FOCO, get your overalls.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like, the whole reason why I'm friends with Kelly is because I'm playing the long game here, and I'm banking on the fact that she's eventually going to get a boat.
Podcast
and then I'm going to have
studio,
a friend with a boat.
Podcast studio on a boat.
I know.
Let's do it.
I know.
Sorry for
Is that how
revealing
Wi-Fi
that in
works?
front of
Can
thousands of
we
people.
do that? Can you have a podcast on a boat?
If you contribute $5 to the boat GoFundMe, you can come on the boat.
Yes.
Just so you know.
I get
So-
Get Kelly Hinkle a boat.
Do we have any other notes from the game last night
Morgan
that you think
Frost made me angry.
He was rough.
are? That's
Yeah.
the
What is up with you, dude? Like, come on.
I've
by
been
now,
saying.
just, like,
Oh, boy.
It's a game.
I know. I've just been such a Morgan Frost defender and such a person that has been waiting for him to
Has anyone checked on Bill
Oh,
Meltzer?
I mean, Bill didn't go. He doesn't
Right.
travel. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe Morgan needs the Meltzer boost.
He's
when
the
he goes
Chris
back
Stewart.
home.
He can
Yeah.
only be good in the last 55 games of the season. So we've got to wait a little while.
You know, one thing I will say about that, though, and this, I don't think this is necessarily a good thing to say about Frost because it's not like those first 30 or so games don't matter. They matter. But he has historically been a bit of a slow starter.
I know, but bro, you've
He
been
has.
in the league for a while now.
I
Like,
agree.
all right.
No,
I'm
he's
just
not
saying.
a rookie by
No.
any means.
No.
He's not a prospect anymore.
Some guys are slow starters. The thing is that if you're a star player, you can afford to be a slow starter because in the end you're still going to get your 90 points. If you're a guy who's going to get 50 points a year, you can't really afford to struggle for the first month and a half of every season.
And if you're a guy who, I don't know, was maybe one of the best offensive players on the team for the second half of the season, and the coach was still like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't afford a slow
don't fuck
start.
around.
I want it for this dude, and I want it for this team for the 2017 draft, man. Like the height
That
of
was
our
so
collective careers. It's like
The whole
height
draft.
of the height of our collective, like that 2017 draft it's my favorite day for us as a group.
We had the most fun. That
It is
day.
also the downfall of this fucking organization.
Kind
It's
of.
the reason we are where we are right now. I really want it to be salvaged, and he's going to be a big part of that.
Didn't they get Noah Cates in that draft?
They got
though?
Cates late there.
Okay, so
right, so there we go.
the
We're
draft
good.
has
We're
been
good.
already
We're good.
salvaged
Yeah.
as long as Noah Cates is
All right, but they had the number 2 overall pick, and he's a bust. They traded back into the first round and moved Braden Chen, who's now the captain of another organization, for Morgan Frost. We're waiting on him, and they got my guy, who was the big tall guy who stinks. In the
Ratcliffe.
second round. Yeah, Isaac
Ratcliffe.
Ratcliffe. And he's no good. So, yes,
Yeah.
Noah Cates in the 4th or 5th, wherever they got him, cool. But at least we have Owen Tippett, though.
Yay.
Yeah, they just didn't draft him.
Yeah,
that
they
draft
just-
class, though.
It still worked out. Anyway, so Kelly and I had a conversation pregame last night that I really wanted to bring to the group as well, because I think I finally because I was like, I got the bullies, I got our attachment to them, because listen, I like that type of hockey. If I had my way, there'd be line brawls every night. Like it would, but that's just not the way of the game anymore. So we move on. But we as a group, and I think Kelly and I specifically, because we're, Charlie, the Big J journalist, Steph, didn't grow up.
Newer fan.
It didn't grow up with the team in the 90s the way we did. She's from North Jersey. We have built a resentment towards that era of the team and their continued involvement. And it sometimes bleeds over into like, we just hate those teams now. Yeah. Like even like they won 2 titles. They were relevant the entire 70s and 80s. Like it's why they're a premier organization still, even though they're irrelevant to the city. They're still like kind of big in the league. I think I finally get it because my attachment to this Phillies team that hasn't won shit yet. Like if Bryce Harper were to, when his contract is up in like a decade, take over the Phillies front office and proceed to run the team into the ground, I would blame everyone else and say this is not Bryce Harper's fault. Like I finally get that attachment that maybe I will always love the 07 to 11 run, but I feel like this team represents us in a way, like the city of Philadelphia. Not only do they come up big and have these awesome moments, win playoff series, go on runs these last couple of years, but they do it in a way that just speaks to me so fully. I get the attachment. I guess I rediscovered that attachment a previous generation of fans has to the Bullies, and I would like to extend an olive branch to the section of fans that I think the 4 of us have helped alienate.
Join us
from our audience, because we all love the Flyers. At the end of the day, we all love the Flyers. I get you, and I am sorry if my desire for this team to move forward has somehow alienated you as fans, because I get it now. It's more than just winning. It's more than just they wear the logo. It's how they represent the city. And I mean, the Bullies, man, that's who we are. Like, we're threatening the life of a mascot in Atlanta. This is who we are. We're violent, insane people, and that's the Bullies.
Yes, but, like, you have to be good. Like, you've got to be good. We can't talk about the Phillies right now and the Flyers. They're just 2 completely different teams in 2 completely different places.
We're talking about the vibes.
The vibes.
Really. And the
way,
I say entirely
the way
too much.
A certain section of the fan base has been like, no, you have to include the alumni. It has to always be this thing. I think I get it more than ever, because that wasn't just a good team, those 70s Flyers teams. That was, they won back-to-back titles. They beat the Russians, and they beat the shit out of everybody. Yeah. That speaks to us in a way that this Phillies team now speaks to me. And I just get that fandom again.
I get it now. So I was watching the post game after the Phillies last night, and I saw Pedro Martinez say he has 4 daddies and all of them were Phillies players. I get that vibe now. That's how the older Flyers fans feel about the 90s teams. I get it now. They're all the daddies of the season ticket holders, right? Is that what we're saying here?
Bob Clark is my daddy.
God, I love Pedro.
He's the best.
The one thing I'll say about that, and this is kind of taking it off in a different direction.
Go right ahead.
Because I agree with you that this Phillies team in particular has seemed to kind of capture something about the city in its own unique way. And I think it's really cool. I think the fact that Bryce Harper has embraced the city of Philadelphia has been really cool. I think the fact that just you have the daycare, you have all these different pieces.
Nick Castellanos just making me question my own sexuality.
It feels right. But the thing is that it feels right in a way because it feels like it happened by accident. Like it happened naturally. Like I'm not saying that the Phillies weren't trying to build a good team, because they absolutely were. You know, they have
one of the highest payrolls in the history of the sport.
They went out, they signed a bunch of players. They convinced Bryce Harper to come here. They convinced Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos to come here. You know, they signed Zach Wheeler. They built this team to win. But I mean, guys like Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber, they played for other teams before they played for the Phillies. And I didn't watch those guys on those other teams and say to myself, man, those guys they're Philly type guys. Like I didn't realize it. And now they're here and they obviously are and they obviously fit. But it's not like it's not like they signed them because it was like, man, they fit this idea of what a Philly has to be. It's that they signed them because they're good. And then almost by accident, it turned out this group of crazy dudes just coalesce together into this unit that is Philadelphia. And honestly, it probably was the same way with the Bullies.
Yes.
You know, like Ed Snyder went out and got Dave Schultz and those guys because he didn't want the team to get beat up anymore. But it wasn't because he was trying to create a team that reflected Philly. It was because he was sick of his team getting beat up. And then kind of naturally, the city realized that, man, we see some of ourselves in this team. And I guess where I'm coming from is that, look, I'm not saying that it's not important to get guys who can deal with the limelight, look, we're seeing in Atlanta what happens when a team can't deal with the limelight. Ugh. They just fall apart and they crumble and they start complaining about media and they start talking back to the fans, showing that they're clearly getting rattled by the Citizens Bank Park faithful. Like those kind of guys, no, they're not Philadelphia types. But I think less should be made of, well, we have to sign this guy because he's a flyer. He's a Philly type guy. Like, get good players and get the right kind of good players. But if a team is going to take on the persona of a city, it's not going to be because you forced it. It's going to be because it happens naturally.
And that's something Kelly and I talked about. Like the idea that they're going to build this culture, this Flyers team.
Yeah.
The culture. We're going to be the Flyers. It's like, the identity has to happen naturally.
Yes,
everyone has to be themselves and don't force something exactly like you're saying. So hopefully they are on that path. When you talk about it happening almost accidentally, I do want to draw a comparison to this Flyers team though. You know, Bobby Clark famously goes in the second round because he's diabetic.
Yeah, type 1 diabetes.
Matvey Mishkov slips to 7 because he's Russian. Who knows? Who knows?
Those are the same.
Who knows? All I'm
totally
saying.
the same.
Something I do have to shoehorn in here is
because of mono.
Yeah.
Because, he liked to, go to parties and stuff.
That's the identity. Just a bunch of sick boys and Russians.
Something I do have to shoehorn in here in case anyone hasn't heard. The game time for the opener on Tuesday has been moved from 7 back to 6 o'clock because the NLCS is going to start at 8. There's a friendly soccer match between someone in Germany. It's like France and Germany. Or, I don't know. There's also a soccer match that night.
Good soccer countries.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So the game time has been moved, but you don't have to worry about the Game Time app going anywhere. Listen, buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, well, with a few minutes left here, I have finally done it.
Oh,
it's a division preview time now.
Oh, no.
It's really just a way to lead into talking about the Ottawa Senators. Claude Giroux and company.
I was going to say, so in other words, it's a way to talk about Claude Giroux.
Yeah, Claude Giroux and company will be taking on the Flyers on Saturday. Pre-game for that show will be right here at 11. I believe Kelly will be joining me for that.
Probably.
It is a 1 o'clock puck drop on Saturday. So let us get started with these Ottawa Senators, who the Flyers will be playing in their second game of the season. They made a few changes. They had high expectations going into last year. Of course, they signed Claude Giroux. They go out and get Alex DeBrincat. They think they're going to pair them with all their young guys and be off to the races. They did end up with 86 points, but 5 or 6 out of the playoffs. There's a few teams ahead of them. What do we think about the Ottawa Senators this version? They are, of course, starting the season without their 2 and 3C, both Norris and Pinto. Pinto's still unsigned. Norris is out. high expectations there again. They swapped out to Brink. He didn't like being a second-line player for them. He had an issue with that. So they bring in Vladimir Tarasenko now. Playoffs for Ottawa, should that be the expectation? It is a very good division.
I think a lot of it for this team hangs on what the goaltending turns out to be, because they went all in on what's-his-face, Korpisalo. And if he's good, all right, maybe they'll sneak in to that last spot. But if he turns out to be not great, and they gave him a pile of money for a lot of years, which is not always a good idea.
It's a choice.
Didn't they? Yeah. And it's they got some good offense outside of Giroux. Stützle is pretty sick. He's very good. But yeah, they gotta hope that this choice that they made in goal works for them, because if it doesn't, I don't really know how it works for them. And a division, as you said, is very good.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I actually think I'm probably, if we're talking about one team in that division that I think can take the leap into playoff status, I prefer Buffalo to Ottawa personally.
It seems like, because the middle class of the East is so very interesting. Like, the Flyers might have the same number of points as last year and be further down in the East standings somehow, just because like someone has to win and lose these games. And when they're up against these good teams, like I don't see anyone on the Flyers list. I like Sean Couturier. Rasmus Dahlin is a freaking superstar. Like, they have that high-end talent. Tage Thompson, 40 goals. Like they have some dudes, man. If I guess we can throw Detroit into that conversation, but I don't think they're quite. I don't think they're quite where Buffalo and even Ottawa is.
I would agree, but
the middle class of this,
they're close enough
of this division and of the East are very good. Like if it's Buffalo or Ottawa, is everyone kind of like Buffalo's better?
Probably. I go Ottawa because Jacob Chychrun.
I mean, it's a fair point, though. Got that guy. Like, Ottawa's defense, they've done a legitimately good job of remaking it. I mean, obviously, they got Chychrun, but not only that, I mean, they just locked up Jake Sanderson. Obviously, they got Thomas Chabot. I'm an Artem Zub fan. Like, they have good defensemen. And given where they were post Erik Karlsson trade, they've done a really good job of remaking that blue line in a not that long period of time. I guess it's like Flyers goals here in terms of remake. Because I mean, both Chabot and Sanderson could both be legitimate number one quality defensemen. I don't think either of them are quite there yet. Chabot's probably closer just because he's older. But they both have that upside, and the Flyers are going to need a couple of those guys if they really want to remake that defense. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Ottawa ultimately is. I just personally prefer Buffalo. I think I like their coaching staff better. I don't know. For whatever reason, I just have a gut feeling. I also really like that Devin Levi goalie that they have. I think he could be a legitimate dark horse for the Calder. I mean, most likely it's going to be Bedard who wins it.
One would think.
Yeah. But if he doesn't, if some other team's version of Brandon Manning injures him, maybe Levi could slip in if he ends up backstopping that team to a playoff berth.
Just the greatest.
Who's our Brandon Manning?
The greatest dumb thing of all time.
Who will take out Connor Bedard?
Convinced the entire hockey media that he did it on purpose. No, he's just skating out of control because that guy caught up to the fastest skater I've ever seen. You think he was thinking about what he was doing? No, he just had a rocket up his ass for 2 seconds. Anyway, yeah. So the Atlantic Division, but Ottawa they're just a very interesting team to me. New ownership seemed okay, we don't have a cheapskate running things anymore. We're going to get our arena at some point. But maybe it's because Giroux is there and I'm I know what's going to happen. They're going to disappoint.
And also you hate Ottawa.
I do hate the Ottawa Senators.
I'm
really happy.
They already hate Tarasenko. In Ottawa, they're already being
really?
Should have never signed this bum. They're already against Tarasenko.
Well, it just seems like wild mismanagement that you didn't have your own guys re-signed, like Shane Pinto.
Yeah.
And you go out and get a Tarasenko. That seems like a luxury move for a team that, a year from now, once you make the playoffs and establish yourself as, okay, we're not just in the middle class now, we're vying for top 3 in this division. Maybe we're better than Florida now. Maybe we can overtake a team like Tampa that's going to start aging something. Okay, then go get a Tarasenko. But now, why?
Yeah,
you don't have all your own guys yet.
Yeah, it very much struck me as okay, we're losing to Brink. Let's get let's get older to Brink which is basically what Tarasenko is at this point. He's just not as good because obviously he's older. I've always been a Tarasenko fan. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're not liking him thus far. I guess it's early. I guess he could find a way to change the fans' minds.
I think it's because of the money,
just because the money thing.
I think that
just
they're pissed off.
Like, this seems like a Flyers thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we were trying to be great and forgot to be good first. Like, oh, yeah, that's you need one before the other. It's baffling to me.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see them tomorrow because one thing that I can fall into, especially at the beginning of the year when I'm like just scrambling to get everything done from a writing standpoint, is that I don't get a chance to see teams, like to watch other NHL games beyond the Flyers. So it'll be interesting to watch Ottawa and see what they look like.
Are you busy or something?
Yeah,
what
maybe
the
a
fuck?
little.
Like,
maybe
what
a little.
do you do, Charlie?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you write about the Phillies. You travel now with the Flyers. You write about the Flyers. You podcast every day. You don't have any more free time?
Come on.
I mean, I could just not sleep. There's that option.
Yeah, man.
But anyway,
develop a drug habit or something.
Oh, geez. But anyway, I'll be interested. I'll be very interested to see this team because they obviously do have designs on taking a step forward this year. I'm always going to have a soft spot for Claude Giroux. I hope that he hasn't signed the rest of his career away on a team that will never make the playoffs. So I'd like to see Ottawa, take that step. Because I don't think the Flyers are going to in the next couple of years.
Probably not.
But hey, you never know. If game one was a harbinger of things to come, maybe they'll make the playoffs before Ottawa does. You never know.
All right, I want to wrap the show up with our hypothetical of the day. Now, I'm listening to The Drop earlier this week. It's the ESPN hockey pod with Wish and Arda Ocal. I'll never. That's a person.
Okay. I cannot hear that title without thinking of the Beastie Boys.
Sorry, I've never listened to it, but I kind of hope that they use that.
They better use that.
I'm sure they don't.
They had NHL Chief Content Officer Steve Mayer on, and they're asking him about the Chief Content Officer. Yes, they're asking him about how the Vegas banner raising came together because, like, it wasn't just your typical, okay, here goes the banner with the dramatic music and everyone stands. They made it a Vegas thing. And that's been the Golden Knights since they came into the league, kind of changing the personality of not everything has to be this traditional, straightforward. No, we're going to have some fun. And Steve Mayer said he believes teams are going to start turning their ceremonies more to represent their environments, their city's culture, much like Vegas did. My hypothetical question is, in 2042, when the Flyers finally win a Stanley Cup or something, what would ours be? Like, they break out the slot machine and it's this whole, what would the Flyers do? Steph, I want to start with you.
There'd be a lot of gritty and I think a lot of sandwiches. I don't know why that's where I went to immediately. Like, a lot of gritty.
We
and
do
a
have
lot
sandwiches.
Of sandwiches. Like, I feel like there would just be sandwich launchers. I don't know how.
We're stuffing the cup with cheesesteaks.
I would drink Whiz out of the cup.
Pile of cheesesteak meat.
Cheese Whiz.
Coveralls. Yeah. I don't know. It'd be fun though.
I have, because when Steph said it's going to be a lot of gritty, and you're like, people are not going to like that. To appease everybody, both sections. Remember the first game with Gritty where he comes in like a wrecking ball?
Yes.
He goes back up with the wrecking ball to raise the banner.
Okay. And then
we never see Gritty again.
He
disappears into the rafters, and Gritty is retired. But like, imagine
that would actually be beautiful.
Like, we get the summer of the cup with Gritty.
Gritty lore. That would be the best.
Yeah,
seriously.
you just see like him disappear into the rafter and he's gone. Like, because we'll get the summer with the cup with Gritty, so he does all the ridiculous nonsense, and then all of the anti mascot people get what they want. He's gone.
Yeah, they could put something like on. You know how like the Golden Knights have their castle section. You just have like one of those top sections just have two eyes, and that's what's all that's left of Gritty are his eyes at the top.
He just like pops up every
down.
now and then.
Yeah,
friggin' Gatsby shit.
Okay, here's my idea. Just hit me. Remember how during the pandemic when the Lightning won and they had their boat, like the boat tour, the boat parade, an ATV parade.
Oh no.
Oh
yes. Yes.
I love that. That is good.
Fucking things.
We take the cup around, the players all in ATVs. Come on.
I like that. I like we have the two sides of Philly. The one who wants it and the one who's like, those fucking things.
Yeah, that's like my biggest boomer qualities. I fucking hate the ATVs and the dirt bikes. They scare my cat and they stink.
Oh, man.
All right.
So there.
Do we have, did you have one, Kelly?
No, I mean, I would like them to do something fun, like have the banner tied up in the shape of a pretzel and then like unfurl it up into the sky. But they'll probably do something stupid like Liberty Bell Revolutionary War shit. And that would be the end of it.
But like, what's the worst thing they could possibly?
Bringing back the
it'll be the most
statue.
boring. Like,
yeah, it'll be Rocky statue, Steph, something like that.
Sly is there.
Stuff,
Yeah, that'll be what it is.
They'll definitely do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that will wrap it up
Hopefully
for us.
Stallone's still alive by the time they win the next cup.
He will be.
I don't know if I will be. The way it's going.
I gotta get on the treadmill or something. All right, and that will do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. Very special thank you to our ladies from Broad Street Hockey, Stephalicious D. Steph Driver, and the flyby herself, Kelly Hinkle. Of course, I am Bill Matz. This is Charlie O'Connor. Ring the bell, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.